Hey, Reno, welcome back. I'm Cody, and today's episode is a little different. It's personal. For years, I thought I was the tech guy. The one um, brilliant in the technical stuff, but couldn't necessarily explain it to anybody else. I couldn't translate what was going on in my head into words that actually made sense to normal humans, and my relationship suffered for it. I was losing the human part of myself, piece by piece, buried under the weight of being pigeonholed into this narrow technical role. And I honestly thought that was a sense of pride. But I did struggle with it, and I found out that I'm not alone. Today's guest, Andrew Hinkelman, is a former chief technology officer who spent 7 years leading a technical, uh, the technical division at Parametric, a fintech company that was acquired by Morgan Stanley. He's worked for some of the biggest names in tech: LinkedIn, Reddit, Stripe, Coinbase, Sony, and by all external measures, where did I? And I just lost it. By all external measures, he was successful. But 6 years into his CTO role, something broke. He was always needed by everybody else, constantly fixing things, never getting to be to the strategic work that he actually mattered. That actually mattered. And behind him, as he puts it, it was a trail of tears, damaged relationships, burnout team members, and his own health deteriorating. Today, Andrew runs Priority One Group, where he coaches technical leaders, CTOs, VPs of engineering, and senior engineers, helping them avoid the same fate he experienced. He spent the last 6 years developing methodologies for what he calls human-centered leadership, a counterbalance to what all tech stacks and AI conversation, or a counterbalance to all the tech stack and AI conversations that dominate our industry. In this conversation, we're going to have talk about why technical people struggle with the people side of leadership, why traditional training fails engineers, why being the smartest person in the room is often the problem, not the solution, and most importantly, what you can do to actually change it. This is a conversation between two people who've lived this struggle. We're going to be honest, we're going to rant about corporate culture, and we're going to give you practical tools that you can use this week. If you ever felt like you're great at the tech, but struggling with the people, this episode is for you. So, Andrew, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Cody.
So I just told everybody a little bit about my story. Can you give me a highlights reel of who you are, where you've been, what you've done?
Yeah, so I was just like everybody else, getting a lot of satisfaction out of doing things, producing work, feeling like I was accomplishing something during the day. And one thing that nobody really prepares you for as you take on more and more responsibility in larger teams, no one says, "Hey, look, you're going to have meetings from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And somehow you need to figure out how to feel good about that, right?" No one really says that because it doesn't really make any sense logically, I think. But I'd been in that situation for quite a while. I would drive home or, bus home and kind of feel like, what did I do today? Right? Like I was in meetings all day. Okay, I made a few decisions. Maybe I helped a couple people, but really I didn't do 9 hours of work. I did like maybe there was 5 minutes of like productivity in each one of those meetings. Um, I kind of got to the point where I was like, what am I doing? Where is this going? I had reached a level that I never really thought I was going to reach. It never occurred to me that I would reach this point where it was like, there's not a next step. And I found that like I was really confused by that. And because I had always kind of thought like, well, what's next? I'm going to go, director, VP, C level. And then you all of a sudden you're like, now what? I just sit here? I, um, so there were a lot of things at play there, some dissatisfaction, a little disillusionment, and not a lot of self-awareness. Like I was really, I think it would have been obvious to someone else that I was burning out. but I didn't have the people around me for that, and
Um, it,
yeah,
it, it really, you got further than I did because I made it up. So in the government, you're capped at like a senior dev. There is no. So as soon as I hit senior dev, they're like, yeah, you go into management. I'm like, that's not coding. That's not tech. That's so I'm like, how do I even transition that? And that's kind of what got me. But you went even further and got into that management side. That really you lost the fun, I would say, of the tech side, right? Where you
yeah,
get to showcase something you did, you show progress. You have somebody at the end of the day being like, good job, you did something,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We like to build stuff, right? We like to fix things. We like to be able to look at something that you did, and point to it and feel like you got something done. And when you take that away, it can be really, really confusing.
it definitely is. So how am I trying to phrase this now? I want to get more into why that is. Like, why do we move these people into these spots where they're not ready for it?
It's a brilliant question. I think a bit of it is that's the way it's always been, like there's a lot of that in corporate America, even in the smaller startup companies that feel like they're going to do everything differently. Um, there's a lot of this is just the way it works. There's a hierarchy. You report to somebody, and if you really trace it back, a lot of it goes back to, assembly line kind of stuff, right? Like this is going to happen and then this is going to happen and your role is right here and then it's going to go to the next station or the next place or the next person. So I think we live in a world where a lot of this is sort of societal, cultural, and I think these things just kind of perpetuate themselves. And there's a lot of good thinking out there. There's a lot of good new, fresh ideas and how to change it and stuff. But it takes people at the top of the house to kind of really, really want to do things differently, to build a culture around doing those differently. So then, what happens? You come in, you go through school, maybe you're a comp sci major, maybe you're learning management systems, whatever it is, and you're doing and you're producing. And then someone says, well, if you want to have more responsibility and make more money and get a better title, you got to hang a left and go into that thing that's all about people and is completely different than what you spent your life doing. And I think we're so blasé about that. I've coached leaders at a lot of different companies, very, very successful companies. And there's kind of an attitude like, hey, I went through it. I figured it out. Why can't you? It's almost like a rite of passage for a lot of, I mean, I don't think they would admit that, but a lot of guys that lead large organizations are like, hey, I figured it out. You need to do it too.
The sad part about that statement though is the future isn't you're going to figure it out. The future is a completely different organization run by one person as opposed to all these other tiers. Like you're not going to have that structure or that symbol structure anymore. So I just wonder if it's like throwing, um, it's like trying to like showcase that you need to go through this, but you don't actually like. I'm just trying to understand that statement more than anything else. If you know what I mean, like I like how do I say this? I'm trying to phrase this. Did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know if it was me or you.
Sorry
Sorry.
about that. So yeah, that statement that like having to go through it. I don't think anybody is going to have to go through it in the future. Is what I'm saying. So it's like I don't know why people aren't focused on changing it now. Is it just like leaders don't see that future part of it, or is it just like we're too set in our ways.
I think we're a little set in our ways where we like to throw this term busy. I'm busy, you're busy. Busyness is a bit of a chronic uh, fallback thing that people like to kind of hide behind. But the thing is it takes a lot of work to change a culture. And there are very few companies where, as you come up as an engineer, you can be successful as an individual contributor, and that there's an IC ladder, right, where you can go, you can be a lead, you can be a senior. There's a principal engineer, a staff engineer, right? Very, very few companies do that. It's almost always like dev manager, director, VP, all of that. And I think, it's a bit of a misunderstanding. And hey, look, this is another thing. In corporate, the HR teams get relied on, and I would say even like they get overemphasized and over relied on to just fix things, and that's like oil and water with an engineering organization. They're just not. They don't know enough.
They're so separated from the actual engineers and the understanding of what they do. I remember going through hiring, we had to send it off to HR and it had to be on an approved list. And then they had a static template to go put it out there, and we weren't allowed to change like which languages were on the template, even though we were working in completely different languages. So we were hiring C# engineers to work in Angular. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But I understand like that separation very well.
I think it extends to a lot of different things too. It's why a lot of trainings in corporate fail, right? It's a lot of a lot of trainings, people kind of treat them like it's just a day off, right? Like, and they don't really pay too much attention to them. And like, hey, I gotta get this training thing done that HR put out. It's like practically a day off. They go, and people bring their laptops and they check their fantasy football team, and it's because it doesn't fit. It wasn't made for that. It was made for some generic business user persona that is night and day different from the life of an engineer.
That makes sense. Before we get off this topic, I do want to just ask one last question for mainly for the audience. If you don't know you're feeling burnout, what are some signs?
It's a really good question. And there's some basic things. And one is like when you are always exhausted. This sounds obvious, but this is what it's like when you come into Monday and you're already tired. And the idea of like Thursday and like it's like unbelievable. Like how am I even going to get to Thursday, let alone Friday? So if you're starting the week exhausted, that's one thing. That's one thing to look out for. Another is, and this is even a little bit of a deeper sign, is where you stop caring. And what I mean by that is most people, if you get a Teams message, Slack message, email from your boss, most people are going to be like, "Oh, I need to respond to that and probably quickly." Just out of kind of normal respect and all of that. When you see that and you're like, "Screw that, I'll get to it later," or anything else where you're just kind of like, I don't even care enough to respond quickly and be the type of employee that I have been for previous years. That's a big sign too.
I now just want to point out the moment where I could pinpoint it exactly. We had built this robust system to manage Ontario's labor policies enforcement. We built a whole new application that allows our officers to go offline into mines and actually track data that's going on, and be able to sync into a master record and keep everything consistent. And I was talking to the product owner at the time, and I had said, he had said something about we want to be able to make sure that our officers are doing the work. And I'm like, we can track full metrics of what they're doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, what they're doing, everything. We can have a full-on dashboard so you can understand where the team's suffering. And the moment I said that, he's like, we don't want that. That was the moment I stopped caring. Because I'm like, do you know how much information you just let go of? That could help not only the citizens, but our organization operate better and find inconsistencies, better data, how to manage things. It just kind of showcased the priorities to me, and that's where I lost my passion.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Because then all of a sudden, oh, they don't want the data because they don't want to be held accountable themselves, probably, which means they're kind of phoning it in, which, it's you learn a lot from people in those moments.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad I went through it, but I do. For anybody still in there, I just want to say there's hope. Canada's changing. I don't know how fast the governments are going to change, but I know I'm seeing progress, a lot of progress. And I just want to stay out there. There's hope, lots of hope.
Yeah, I would echo that, Cody. Even though, I was just speaking in kind of broad swaths about corporate in general, you can find companies out there that are deliberately doing things differently. You just need to, you need to look around and be intentional.
So let's get into your company a little bit. So how do you manage these people? How do you teach the corporate jargon or the technical lingo that needs to be translated?
Yeah, so there's a couple things here. One is that there are a couple pieces to the type of coaching that I do, and one of them is what I describe as human-centered. And there's another piece that I train and teach a lot, and that is not just communication skills in general, but the idea so there's a psychological term called the curse of knowledge, which is when you know a lot and you know things very deeply, it's hard to imagine that someone else doesn't know that. And I tell people everyone needs to know and understand and be a business analyst. Because in some ways, what you need to be able to do to be effective in your organization in the long term is to be curious about the business strategies and to be able to know why we're doing that, what we're doing, how does my company sell, what's the end-to-end customer journey, even if I'm writing back-end code or I'm supporting databases, whatever it is, I should be able to translate things and be able to understand that. And I think that's kind of the beauty of the business analyst, and it goes both ways, right? It's also understanding the technology and being able to explain it to business users. That's different than I am this, and I only need to do this, and people will tell me when they need it. It's a more like I'm going to take ownership for my role, and then I'm in a company that provides a service. So I describe that as taking on some sort of an owner mindset. I think it's really critical.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just watched the Diary CEO podcast with Matthew McConaughey, and he mentioned the same thing. Owner's mindset. Everybody needs to be going into everything with an owner's mindset. And one of my favorite parts of the job was learning why I was building it, what I was building it for, how it was going to work, what technology. Like I wanted to be involved in a lot of the decisions, not for making the decisions, but more for being able to provide my expertise and say, these are the things I think, as opposed to the top-down approach of these are the things we're doing, and you just have to abide by them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're touching on something really important, which is that you have ideas and you need to honor them by getting them out and communicating them.
Do you think that's just a sort of individual, or do you think everybody's capable of this?
Absolutely, everybody's capable of it. It's just that, in our experiences growing up in previous roles, we've all had managers that kind of ignored us or stomped on our ideas and, or maybe it was parents that did that too. Like, there's a lot of programming that we come into jobs with, right? We have a lot of stuff bouncing around in our heads about how to operate. But absolutely, everybody is coming up with ideas. I mean, if you've done any, exploration of your own thinking, you realize that we're all little idea generators, thought generators, and of course, some of them are terrible and are not great ideas. But um, there's almost no better experience than when you honor an idea by like writing it out, like getting it written down on paper or in a slide deck or whatever, and actually communicating it and socializing it and kind of going, hey, what if we did this?
It's funny you mentioned that because I just released an album with all of my. It's the songs are based off of all of my deep research into the Canadian landscape. So I just made music because it was in my head. I needed it out. And
Amazing.
these are the things that people are able to do when you actually put in the work. Um, and I'm not a musician. I wrote the lyrics. I didn't make the music. Just so we're clear.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Well, for a lot of people, corporate, the life in corporate doesn't incentivize thinking for yourself. Like no one's walking around kind of like saying, bring your ideas, like it's not there. The corporate world is incentivized to keep you focused on predetermined business goals and strategies and projects and things that come down from above. Like that's a pretty consistent structure.
Um, so you mentioned being present is a critical skill. I just want to get into like what that actually means for. Actually, no, not. What am I doing? I'm in the wrong spot. Um, I don't remember where I was going with that. Uh, oh, I know. Do you see in your position, because you get to go and manage or and talk to all of these leaders, do you see corporate changing? Like, do you see it not like no longer becoming this industrial machine and becoming more of a human centric, or at
I,
least companies trying to get that way?
I think there's a lot of effort and discussion and a lot less actual outcomes. I mean, I don't want to sound like the cynical guy who's skeptical of everything, but the truth is that the companies that we see and hear and we know about, again, this is a little bit different than the startup community, right? Where there are a lot of people in the startup community, and if they can identify, if you're a startup and you can identify the culture you're trying to build and doing it intentionally, and you can withstand whatever pressure you get from your investors, because we know that's a lot of where this good intention goes sideways, because suddenly you go through a seed round or whatever it is, and you know you end up having to bow to a lot of pressure from your investors, right? But in the larger companies, I think there are a lot of good intentions and programs and things like that, but they kind of treat them like programs, right? So I think there's a lot of this is the way we've always done it that's still out there. Um, I think there are pockets of efforts.
It makes me wonder if in the future, because right now we have this split where young people are having a hard time finding jobs. I'm wondering if in the future business is going to be more. You have the big guys, but they basically bring in the young guys to train them to be the way, and then they branch off into creating their own companies for purpose or something like that. Kind of like a training regimen or something. I just hope we could figure out something about that, because like I feel like we're going to be losing a lot of lower workers in the future.
Yeah.
But they still need the information. They still need to learn. They still need the structure. The one thing I'm seeing is nobody wants to work. I don't know. Like that's the thing I'm seeing is nobody's putting in the effort anymore. I remember going to a job as a kid and just, regardless of it, I still came home exhausted, hated my life, but I still tried. I still put in my all, tried to gain my experiences. I just don't see that anymore. And I worry about that.
Yeah, there are quite a few companies where I hear these stories about people that are just flat out not showing up, and they are, always late, not responding, all that kind of thing. I mean, it's almost like quiet quitting without quitting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there. It happens a lot, but I don't know. I try to stay a little bit more positive about it because I think that you can see positive in the current workplaces. You can see the negative, and I think this is maybe a life lesson for everybody, myself included, which is pick one because they're both there,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to get more of what you focus on. I would rather focus on positive.
Very fair, and that's what I try to do here too. I really am so hopeful for our future. Um, it's ridiculous. Like since AI has come out, I have been the most hopeful of anything. This is a transition. This is going to cause massive change. We're about to be able to establish a new path, a new way of doing things, and I'm hopeful. Um, do you have any advice for practical steps going forward for companies?
Well, I think that they need to pay more attention to what you just mentioned, which is, if we continue on the path that we're on with a lot of this new tooling and capabilities, it's going to in turn have a lot of people thinking differently and having different expectations, right? So if AI becomes a technology of empowerment, because that's really that's the promise of it, right? Is like, I can do a whole bunch of things like even better for me, right? To make me more efficient and to bring my ideas out. I think a lot of companies are dragging their feet on embracing AI. And I've been around a few where it's getting their head of technology or their chief technology officer in a lot of trouble because they're not moving fast enough and not bringing everyone in and helping them get, this term upskilling, helping them learn new skills around even just using Gen AI. Um, they're dragging their feet and they're really putting their jobs at risk. They're disengaging their workforce. Their staff is getting a little bit disillusioned. So I think most companies need to take it a lot more seriously as far as like a change management or like the human potential aspect of it and the empowerment, I think is enormous. Incredible.
just just what I've been able to do, and it's just getting better. Like I learn more skills by the day because I play with AI every day, all day, and I find it like I said, I just released an album, and that took me a week and a bunch of research. And the next thing that's coming out, soon as Sora's good, I have a whole sci-fi TV series that's getting put on the internet. So,
Awesome. Like,
um,
it's fun and it's productive and one of the greatest things as someone, well, in any role is being able to get your ideas out, right? Like this is the thing that can help you go from having a great idea to having it like manifest into the world.
how do you what do you want out of the world? What do you want out of AI?
I have a little bit of a I guess we could call it a fantasy around this, and that is that we're able to live in a world where technology enables us to be more human. And what I mean by that is this world where everyone's walking around staring at their phones doesn't need to exist anymore, because we've gotten to a point where the important things, you're finding out about the important things, and you don't need to just be tied to your technology all the time. Like, I've resisted getting any kind of smartwatch for a really long. Like, I have a dumb watch that never needs to be charged or anything. I can wear it when I'm in the ocean, or I'm paddleboarding, or whatever it is. I feel like we're going to grow up alongside AI, and if it serves us properly, then it's easier for us to go outside and go hiking. It's easier for us to be actually present with people, and look someone in the eye and hear them and listen to them and be there. So do I know exactly how that all happens? No, but I think there's a lot of people, like how a lot of school districts are banning smartphones
Yeah.
right now. So I think the pendulum is coming back a little bit, and people are looking a little bit more critically at what it means to just be plugged in 24/7.
The biggest thing I've understood from doing this is all I want to do is sit here and have a conversation with you, and even if we weren't like recording it or anything. I like to record it because it gives other people hope and insight. And I know this information is knowledgeable, but even just having this connection, talking, this is what I get most out of this. Like, this is my fun. And I hope more people can start to understand that, like, you need to put the device away, have a conversation. And the one thing I do want to highlight is there's no black and white. Everything is gray, and you have to choose your battles. Um, I say that being a political critic, and I choose my battles. I choose to have fun battles on X over political things, but that's my inner troll being fun. But in terms of connecting with people, I really think that's the future of everything. Be able
And
to
we're
understand.
Yeah, and for anyone that's listening, like, it's not like Cody or I like shut down all our devices and just walk around outside looking for someone to talk to. The critical thing, I think, is to shrink things, simplify things, right? So first of all, just know that more than likely the people that you see around you, or the maybe you're in other meetings, or your neighbors, almost everybody is kind of lonely. And maybe it's a little bit of a hangover from the pandemic, or maybe it's a combination of things, but most people are kind of lonely, right? And so start small by just acknowledging someone in line at the grocery store. You don't have to walk around asking people out to lunch. You can just, make eye contact and smile at somebody. You can make, a positive comment about something. So it might sound a little trite, but I think starting small and keeping things realistic is a great way to kind of turn the tide.
And to add on that, the one biggest thing that I've been blessed with now is the network of people. Um, I now have connections I never thought I would. To be able to help or ask questions or get information, that connection is valuable. I didn't realize it growing up, but now I do. And I thank everybody that's been on my podcast, or anybody I've connected to, because I truly just want to know who you are, what you do, why you do it, and hope to apply things in the world. Um, I do want to get into, well, that kind of segues into like relationships as career currency. Um, and that's kind of what I'm trying to establish. So starting small, how would somebody in business, let's bring it back into business so we don't get too off topic.
Yeah.
How somebody in business start making these relationships and start really contributing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's gonna be a little bit different for everybody, but there are a couple things to keep in mind. If you work at a company, every single person there, you have something pretty serious in common with them. There should be no shortage of topics. Like if you're in the hallway or in the kitchenette before or after a meeting, you shouldn't have to think too hard. It doesn't have to be about something personal, right? So, you know, you really want to use that to your own advantage in that it doesn't matter if I use the example of being sort of like a back-end engineer or a DBA or something. You should have something relevant to talk to somebody who's a director of marketing or a salesperson because you're working in the same company. And if that's not the case, then it is time to learn more about your company, to learn more about how it operates, to learn about the industry. So I think we probably both had this experience where a lot of engineers seem to be agnostic of the business or the industry that they're in. And that's why a lot, if you write C# here at this company, in a lot of ways, it's no different than going way over here to this other industry, right? It's just plug and play everywhere. That's not going to allow you to have an impact and build relationships. It's when you embrace the fact that your business has a value proposition, it has customers, it has an industry. There's all this other stuff in there, in addition to being a technologist, that allows you to kind of drive a lot of these diverse relationships and build conversations and things.
It does. That's one of the things that I loved about my job was not only the tech side, but learning about everything else. Like I had a genuine curiosity of like why I was doing things, and not just doing them, because like I don't understand just doing it. I don't get it. Like, how? Sorry, I'm just trying to think of where I was going with that. Um, when I'm trying to phrase to the audience, I think more than anything else, I want to try and boil down um, your job, like the audience's job, any position you're in, be it tech, be it marketing, be it uh, CEO, or just like a guy on the streets or handing out pizzas. Um, I remember being in Tim Hortons, and my regular customers came in all the time. They saw me, they greeted me, they give me tips. That is one of the biggest things you could do as starting out in your career is get tips and just having those regulars. Hey, I have your order already ready for you. That's a relationship building. Um, but you can take that in other ways too. You could also help out the manager and try and understand their job a little bit so that you can kind of take off their plate. Those are all valuable skills that you can then take and apply elsewhere. The This whole YouTube channel came from all of my experiences, all of my life skills. I'm a tech guy. I'm a conversationalist. I like to talk to people. I like to get into AI. I appreciate everybody's opinion, and I try and understand where everybody's coming from. But these are all things I learned throughout my career. I just want to emphasize that you're not one thing. Nobody is ever one thing.
Right. Yeah. I think just to build on that a little bit, Cody, um, you're kind of touching on something that I'll say it like this: helping someone else, and you hear this phrase "being of service," right? And it sounds kind of grandiose, right? Well, the example you just used about taking something off of your manager's plate is probably one of the one of the best ways to build trust and to build a relationship with your manager. When you go to your manager and you say, "Why, hey man, why are you doing that every month? let me do that. Don't you have better things to do? I'll do that. Right.
Mhm.
You just offered to free up this person's time. You're allowing them to move on to something more important or more strategic. And you're building trust with someone who's super critical to your career, your role. And you can extend that, you know, when someone, if you're talking about working with Tim Hortons and someone recognizes you, it's this being seen and being cared about and all the different ways that you can do that. Um, isn't that what we're here for? I mean,
I, I
that's
try
the
and
game.
I try to say that all the time. I'm like, I just like helping people. And you know what? The world works in funny ways. When you help people, people help you. It's just how the world works. I can't explain it. Um, but you ask anybody who's successful and say, did you go out and try and help people and really try and do good? And a lot of them will say, yeah, I got my success from this and this and this person. It's not
Yeah.
their own work. It's literally connecting and showcasing that you can help. And then some long time down the road, maybe they can help you. Um, or somebody else that you know, right? That's the thing I love, being able to connect people.
Yeah, yeah. And if we were to make it really, really practical, it's doing the things, doing the new things, the the more strategic things before someone has to tell you to do it or before it's in your job description or whatever. There's still a lot of people who are like, well, I'll do that once I get paid for it or once I get the promotion. And like they'll say things like that. And I'm always like, that's not how it works. Like, you don't get promoted because someone knows that you're holding back your skills until you get the job title. That's not the way it works. The way it works is you need to operate at, if you're a lead, you need to operate at the director level. Like, and whatever that means, if it means building stronger relationships with more senior people, taking more ownership, driving more projects, whatever that means, you have to do it before they're going to give you the title, before they're going to give you the money. And it's this all comes back to this same thing, which is that um, you giving more of yourself is the path. Holding
It,
stuff back is an anti-pattern.
it's people don't know what you're worth because you don't show it.
Exactly. Well said.
It's very interesting that I had a natural tendency to do that. I think that's why I had a good successful career before I left it all. Um, it, I just naturally want to do more, help more, understand more, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things I hope to promote here is the Weird Canadian. We're hoping to promote people doing more, taking on more, and fixing what's broken.
Yeah, be curious and trust your ideas.
So let's just tie this all back full circle. If you could go back to your burnt out self, what would you tell yourself?
It's a good question. I think there's one thing that probably matters more than anything else, and that is to figure out what I need for myself to be strong, to be rested. One of the drivers for burnout, and this definitely happened to me, which is you start to care about a whole bunch of things that are out of your control. Why did they make that decision? Why did my budget get cut? Why I asked for 3 new headcount, I only got one. Why are we going into that market? Why are they looking at why do we have to do that in, that way instead of this way? And you can care about a whole bunch of things that you have no control over, and that's incredibly frustrating. So my real answer is, what do I need? Like, what do I want and what do I need? What do I need to be able to come into Monday rested and strong Do I need to be fully unplugged over the weekend? Do I need to do a 5 mile hike on Sunday? Do I need, what are those things? And to honor those. So I think it all comes back to really saying, you know, you know, can I spend the time and energy to think about what I need for myself rather than what everyone else needs from me?
Very fair. And if you were to have a supervisor or somebody higher up than you, what would you tell them to about the team? What would you tell your leader about what was going on that might help alleviate all that?
We're all humans, right? And energy and willpower and all that are not infinite. And so everybody needs a little extra time sometimes. And it's not actually going to pull, you're not going to pull anything away from results or performance or all your goals and your strategies. You're enabling people to work, at their peak for longer periods of time when you're a little bit more human. And one thing that I say to a lot of people is when it comes to, little deadlines and tactical things, it's good to have a short leash with people. But when it's personal and you have an employee who comes to you, it's like, hey, my dog just died or my mother's ill or something. That's when you have a long leash. You give them a lot of flexibility. You need to go home? Good, go home. Do it, right? Like leave. Short leash for, hey, I need your doc by tomorrow at 5 p.m., right? That's fine. But giving more in the personal sense, I think is a critical thing that I would convey up to my manager.
I wish the world knew that a little bit better too. Because you only get so many days off and so many sick days. That would be nice if it was just a matter of like somebody isn't going to do um, isn't going to hold to that as a minimum, right? It'd be nice to get some human standards for humans. So I
Great.
just wanted to give you the last little bit of the show to give any more valuable advice, anything we missed, or plug wherever you are, what you want, anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's been a great conversation, Cody. I appreciate you. Um, well, I think a great way to connect with me, and I would encourage everyone to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. It's a great way to find me, message me, just connect with me there. And if you look at my profile near the top, there's a link to schedule a discovery call with me. So I do this all the time. I love to meet people. It's not a sales, it's not an executive coaching or leadership coaching sales thing. It's, hey, let's get introduced. And if you want to know what coaching is like, we can use an hour and, I'll coach you on something that you're working on. And so that's just something that I do free of charge all the time. I encourage people to reach out, connect with me.
I really appreciate that, and I'll make sure all of the details are in the description down below. To my audience out there, thank you very much, and stay aware.